The moon is perhaps the most important placement in your entire chart. That's T. Because it literally shows you how you feel about everything. How you feel about everything you do. How you feel about everything you are. How you feel about everyone you have been. Everything you want to become. So when you know your moon, like when you really, really know your moon, you know what you want. You know what you need. You know what fulfills you and what nourishes you. But when you don't know your moon, honey, things can get dark, like really, really dark, like scary dark, okay? So today we are going to go even deeper into the mysterious tidal waters of your moon sign. We are taking our moon maxing journey even further because today we are talking about the house that the moon occupies in your birth chart and why this area of life is inherently tidal, as in it is constantly going up and down, ebbing and flowing, waxing and waning, and why it is so important for you to learn how to ride those waves. Mommy, tea is served. Hello, and welcome to AstroloTea with Aliza Kelly. I'm your host and your spiritual friend, Aliza Kelly, and I am so very happy that you're here. Welcome to our Wednesday tea party. Every single week, I bring you 2 new episodes, okay? Wednesdays, we always have a tea party, and this is where we unpack different parts of astrology that actually shape your life. Like today, we are talking about the moon in your birth chart. And then on Mondays, I always have your weekly brew, which is where I decode the most pivotal astrological events that are going on. And we talk about the theme of the week. Like this week's theme is entering the portal, okay? Plus, I have personalized horoscopes for every sign, so you'll always know what's in store. So you're not scared, you are prepared. Also, a reminder, did you know that I am hosting a retreat this summer? Yes, I am. It's happening during the Lionsgate portal, 8/8. It's taking place August 7th, August 8th, August 9th at the iconic Omega Center, Omega Institute, if you're nasty, in upstate New York. We're gonna be exploring themes of destiny and fate and power and purpose. Tea. So this is gonna be a really, really beautiful, powerful, magical, enchanting, otherworldly experience. So head over to tinyurl.com/Aliza-retreat to register. You can learn more about it there. I can't wait to get to know you and spend this magical weekend together. Okay, but one more thing before we dive into this lunar episode. I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in and for supporting this podcast. If you haven't had a chance already, please make sure to give it a 5-star rating. Yes, honey, nothing else will do. Give us a review. Follow AstroloTea wherever you get your podcasts, and then tell your friends. They want to know, and we want them here. Okay, honey, are you ready? Of course you are. The tea party begins now, and you are invited. Hello, community. Okay, mommies, ask and you shall receive. Am I right? When you're good to mama, mama's good to you. Chicago, right? Oh my God. Okay, well, we are all mama today. I am definitely feeling mama today, okay? And mama, as the representative of Mama Moon, is here to serve you. We are all serving mama. We are all serving Mama Moon because this is an episode that was requested by you. Community, very adamantly requested by you. A few weeks ago, we released a tea party episode on the moon through the different Zodiac signs, and I asked, casually, hey, do you want to do another episode or 2 about the moon? We could do one on the moon through the houses. And you said, yes, I want it now. I wanted it yesterday. How dare you? Serve it to me, please. I'm starving. And I said, okay, I got you. Message received. We're coming. We're making it. We're brewing it up. Just give us a minute to steep it, okay? But we did. And that is what the steep is. It's a deep steep, as you can see. This episode is part 2 of potentially 3 that we're going to be doing relatively, within a short time frame, we are building our lunar library of Alexandria together, okay? So keep that torchlight away because we are trying to really create an iconic library for you to come back to so that you could get to know yourself and, in this context, the moon. Okay, so today we are actually going to be doing one of my favorite things in astrology, which is beginning this process of creating an interpretive synthesis that is astrology. We are taking that moon sign that we talked about a few weeks ago, which represents our emotional inner world, what you need to feel whole and safe and nurtured and supported. And we are going to deepen our interpretation and our translation and understanding of it by going even further into it by exploring the house it occupies in your birth chart. But if you're like, Aliza, hold on, I'm new here. What are the houses? And like, houses in this economy, how could you? Listen, I get it. I know. But if you look at your birth chart, you're going to find 12 of them. Look at you. You're going to notice 12 houses embedded in that stunning, gorgeous 360-degree circle that is your birth chart. Now, my recommendation for calculating your birth chart is and will always be an app called Time Passages, which is an amazing app. It's built by amazing astrologers. The software was actually originally designed and coded in the 80s. It's a family-run business through multiple generations of astrologers. We love to see it. I love Time Passages. And frankly, when it comes to looking at your birth chart and understanding where things are within that structure, I think that Time Passages has the cleanest and most easily organized layout. So whenever I pull up charts, I always pull them up on Time Passages. So if you like the way the charts look, they can look like that for you too, okay? And I think that having a good layout really helps you visualize everything, and also it makes it a little less intimidating because I know that when you're getting started looking at a birth chart, it can feel a little scary. But anyway, you're looking at your birth chart. You're probably pulling it up on Time Passages now because you got the rec. Wherever you pull it up, you're going to see that there are these 12 distinctive sections. These sections are collectively the houses, and each one is individually a house. They are the 12 areas of life that show us where specific energies play out. So we have a house on relationships and on career. We have a house on your childhood. We have a house on your communication. Really, there's a house for everything. And we read a birth chart from the rising sign down and around counterclockwise. So we start at the 9 o'clock position. If you were looking at a birth chart as if it was a regular normal clock, we would start at the 9 o'clock position and then go counterclockwise down and around from there. Beneath that horizon line is the first house, and that's followed by the second and then the third. At the base is the fourth. So on and so forth as we get to house number 12. And as we move around the chart, the houses actually become increasingly abstract. They go from hyper personal to collective, even universal. And this is really by design. I always think of Joseph Campbell, The Hero's Journey, honey, when I think about the houses, because the story of your chart and these spaces in life, moving from things that are about your identity to things that are about the astral plane, is really giving hero's journey. And it's your hero's journey. It's your mythology. It's living, breathing mythology in real time. It is truly your self-actualization journey in a single map that is your birth chart. And it's tank. There are no coincidences. It's beautiful. It's poetic. It's magical. It's mystical. It's esoteric. We love to see it. Frankly, it's tea. It's really tea. Now, broadly speaking, houses 1 through 6, which are all below the horizon, all at the bottom of the chart, are about the conditions that you were born into, whereas houses 7 through 12, which are above the horizon, are about the life that you create for yourself. It's such tea, right? But of course, the houses are always working on an axis. So houses 1 and 7 are in response to each other. Houses 2 and 8 are in communication. 3 and 9 are in communication, 4 and 10 in communication, 5 and 11 are, and 6 and 12 are. So there is this intrinsic duality between what we have and what we're creating, and what we're creating and what we have. We have an entire episode of AstroloTea dedicated to the houses. It's really the full house tour, honey. So be sure to tune into that episode if you want to go even deeper into understanding the houses and what they represent and what they signify. But what I will tell you right now for this lunar house tour is that the houses function primarily in 2 ways, okay? The planets that are moving in the sky right now are lighting up your life per the house that they are activating. That's basically the essence of your horoscope. And in your birth chart, where the planets were at the exact moment of your arrival is sort of like your freeze frame of what the sky looked like the minute that you were born, the second that you were born. And this shows the deeper layers of your natal planets in your life and how they express themselves forevermore. And since we are talking about the moon, which represents your emotional inner world and how you were nurtured, how you weren't nurtured, what you should know is that the sign that it's in reveals the style in which you need to be nurtured. For example, a Leo moon needs to be creative in order to feel fulfilled, whereas a Virgo moon needs to feel purposeful in order to feel fulfilled. But the house shows the area of life where you are going to see that energy manifest, okay? So we are going to layer on what we talked about in our first part of our lunar journey, the moon through the signs, with the moon through the houses, understanding not just the outfit the moon is wearing, which is the sign, but also the area where it's showing up in that outfit. We have like an Aries moon in a warrior outfit. We have a Taurus moon in a soft robe and like luxury pajamas. But where it's showing up is also incredibly important as to whether or not that costume even makes sense in that environment, right? Or like why you're wearing that costume there at all to begin with. So if you have an Aries moon, you're wearing a warrior outfit, but your Aries moon is in the 4th house of home and family and foundations, perhaps your childhood was a place where you felt you needed to fight in order to have your needs met. But if that same Aries moon in its warrior outfit is in the 5th house of creativity and competition, maybe you feel like by expressing your vigor and your intensity, that is your secret weapon to achieving whatever it is that you want to achieve and being the best at whatever you want to do. So maybe you are literally an athlete, right? And I also want to mention that because the moon is tidal by nature, wherever the moon is in your chart is an area of life where you will always experience some undulation. So even if you are a Aries moon wearing a warrior outfit in the 5th house, you are an athlete, it does not mean that that is going to be smooth sailing, my friend, okay? The moon in your chart is like a ship rocking on the waves. So if you have a moon in your 2nd house, which has to do with your money and your personal resources, you may experience some financial up and downs just by design. And at the same time, money is incredibly important to you. So that's intense. Those are your waves. If you have the moon in the 6th house, you may experience some health up and downs, right? Maybe some autoimmune stuff, some things that you're like, I know that I need to have some sort of a diagnosis here, but I can't figure it out. And that becomes more triggered because you innately feel like you need your health to be tended to because that is a comfort and a source of safety for you. You see what I mean? It's tank. There are no coincidences. It's tidal. It's messy. It's wavy. It's complicated. And don't you forget, the moon is both how you were nurtured and how you needed to be nurtured, which includes the type of nurturing you received and the type of nurturing you did not receive. So your lunar placement, the moon in your chart, is inherently a very triggering placement. Always, because it shows you a sensitive part of your life, a sensitive part of your identity, a sensitive part of your emotional inner world as it relates to you feeling satiated and fulfilled and secure. So understanding the house that the moon falls in is truly like the most tea. It is the teaiest of all teas, the TTT. So understanding this allows you to both give that to yourself where you need it and also forgive yourself for being inconsistent in that area of life too. Like if you have the moon in your 7th house of partnerships, you need solid partnerships. You need solid relationships, no doubt. But you also need to learn and accept when certain important relationships have run their course, or you have friend breakups, or you get divorced, right? Like these things can happen even as you have the moon in the 7th house, perhaps especially as you have the moon in the 7th house, because that's the lesson of understanding the waxing and waning of the moon in that placement. If you have the moon in your 10th house of legacy, obviously you are meant to bring your emotions into your career, but that's also very vulnerable, right? So you're going to need to learn how to accept when you are going through a tough moment professionally and how that external validation does and doesn't define you and does and doesn't fulfill you, and when it matters and also when it doesn't. You see what I mean? It's complicated. It's the totality of the experience, right? It's the totality of the nuances of our emotional world. And the moon through the houses is so fascinating, is so interesting. It's, as I keep saying, it is the hottest tea around. So, honey, grab a cup because we got to take a sip now, all right? Now, when we come back, we are going to talk about the moon in your birth chart, the house it's in, and how that informs your emotional expression. And we are going to talk about those tidal waves, okay? The ups and downs in that area of life, and why learning how to understand that flow really is absolutely paramount, totally key to your long-term happiness, okay? So stay tuned. We will be right back after this quick break. Welcome back, community. We are continuing our moon maxing journey. In the first part of this lunar series, we talked about the moon through the different zodiac signs, but today, per request, we are talking about the moon through the houses, the areas of life where you are going to experience your emotional reality, where you are going to feel satiated, where you are going to crash out, where you are going to recover, where you're going to reinvent yourself, and hopefully, eventually learn how to ride those waves, baby. Because remember, wherever your moon is in your chart is the area of life that matters on an internal level. Like a lot. It's sensitive, it's tender, it's very meaningful. It's where you are going to feel the highest highs and the lowest lows, inevitably, okay? And whether these are real or imagined scenarios, you are going to feel it all. The moon is constantly shape-shifting. So wherever it lives in your birth chart has an inherent motion and fluidity to it. It's always evolving. It's always going through a phase. So let's go, okay? Starting, of course, with the house of you, the moon in the first house. If the moon is in your first house, honey, people are clocking you. People can read you like a book immediately because whether or not you want to, you wear your emotions on your sleeve, period. You are emotionally transparent, even when you think you are being mysterious, okay? The first house is your identity. It's your body. It's your presence. It's the way that you move through the world, which means that your emotional reality is part of your aura. People feel your feelings before you even say anything, maybe even before you feel it yourself. Okay? Your emotional reality is deeply connected to your immediate environment, which includes your sense of self from moment to moment. So when you feel good, you're glowing. You're magnetic. You are confident. You are inspiring. People cannot take their eyes off of you. But when you don't feel good, baby, everyone knows. You literally can ruin the vibe of a room just based on the fact that you don't want to be there, because your emotions are powerful, they are visceral, and they shape the environment that you are in, which means they also are affecting everyone else's environment too. There may have been an early experience where your emotional needs felt they needed to be front and center, okay? You needed to have them on display in order to get the type of care that you craved. Maybe your mom only responded to you when you were having very obvious emotions. Or maybe you learned early on that your feelings did shape the environment around you, and being able to display them was a survival instinct. You became deeply aware of your emotional state because, frankly, it affected everything, right? Maybe your caregivers were also very emotional people, so you learned that by design. Safety is how connected you are to your emotions and how much you are able to display them on a moment by moment basis. Now, because the moon is tidal, this means that your confidence and your identity and your feelings naturally go through waves. Sometimes you feel really aligned with yourself, and other times, other seasons, you're going to feel insecure, you're going to feel disconnected, you're going to feel uncertain. And that's okay. Sometimes these phases can last a few hours, a few days, a few weeks, a few months, even a few years. But that's all part of it, right? The shadow aspect of having the moon in the first house is over identifying with every emotion, right? You feel sad and then you're like, well, this is who I am now. I'm sad. This is the new me. This is my entire identity forever. Or feeling insecure in a moment and then jumping to the conclusion that, like, you're not good enough, you don't deserve it, you're doomed, right? But your moon maxing, baby, is understanding that you are not your emotional weather, ever. Your emotions are moving through you, not defining you. And emotions are fluid. They are meant to change. So this placement ultimately needs embodiment, but it also needs movement. It needs reflection. It needs self-awareness. And you're going to feel most fulfilled when your inner world and your outer world come together and smooch. And once you stop resisting the idea that you are actually someone who very obviously displays your emotions, then you can also get the feedback from other people to help you figure out how you're feeling on a case-by-case basis. Honey, this is such a magnetic placement to have because ultimately the realty is you are the moon. The moon in the second house is your emotional security, deeply connected to material security, okay? This is the area of your chart that represents money, worth, stability, resources. So naturally, your emotional safety gets all twisted and wrapped up in questions like, am I actually safe? Do I actually have enough support? Do I have enough money? Am I stable enough? Who's going to give me money? Where is it going to come from? Am I abundant? Am I in a scarcity loop? And before we make this just about money, because it's obviously about money, but it's deeper than that, because the money that we are talking about here is a physical manifestation of a feeling of value and worth, because this really, really can be traced to a pre-verbal era of your life. This is about your earliest conditioning around nourishment. It's about food, comfort, safety, being held, being cared for. And obviously, your caregiver's ability to do that did reflect the economic conditions of your reality. So often there is this feedback loop between your relationships to your childhood, to the emotional security you received, and those early experiences around consistency in your life. Did you feel stable? Did you trust that your needs were being met? And this means that your tidal waves can be very literal, right? Financial ups and downs can feel like emotional highs and lows, right? Periods of abundance are very joyful for you, while uncertainty can be really triggering, right? And suddenly you are in a very dark and very fearful place. Sometimes this placement clings to things, right? Relationships or jobs or routines, because any version of security is going to feel affirming, whereas change can feel threatening even when it's necessary. But your moon maxing is understanding that true security comes from within, okay? Obviously create comfort, obviously make money, obviously like get your abundance, baby, get your prosperity. But your nervous system is going to genuinely benefit the most from when you are taking care of yourself and recognizing that true safety is something that you can cultivate within. It's not something that is going to disappear every time you go through some sort of a change in job or a change in your situation, right? Your environmental situation. You are learning resilience, you are learning trust, and fundamentally, you are learning that you are so valuable exactly as you are, and that you are worthy no matter what. If your moon is in the third house, your feelings need a language, like desperately need a language around them, okay? This is the house of communication and thinking and learning and siblings and neighbors and the way that we understand our immediate reality, which means your emotional processing is a cerebral one. You feel through your words. You feel through your conversations, through sending your best friend 14 voice notes at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night, basically like creating an entire podcast and knowing that you're not judged for it because you actually need that. Growing up, your emotional world may have revolved around communication. Maybe there was a lot of dialogue, or maybe there were a lot of things that were not being discussed, okay? And maybe in the absence of understanding, things felt weird and unsettling, and therefore you had to find your own emotional satiation by creating your own narratives. Either way, with a third house moon, you are emotionally attuned to information. Understanding is your safety. The tides here are going to show up in the way that you process things, right? Sometimes you are going to feel very connected to how you feel, and that's going to come through mental stimulation or curiosity or different types of forms of expression. And then other times you're going to be in these anxiety spirals, right? You're going to be overthinking, you're going to be paranoid, you're going to be self-critical, you're going to be trying to solve the feelings instead of just feeling them, okay? And then in those situations, you're going to be much more dysregulated through anything that you deem to be a miscommunication, or difficulty with friends or siblings, misunderstandings, this feeling of being like perpetually misunderstood or unheard, right? So your moon maxing is really about honoring your emotional intelligence while also remembering that not everything needs a dissertation, diva. You are meant to process through dialogue, through therapy, journaling, writing, podcasting, scripts, storytelling. Words are medicine for you. Words are wands. So let yourself think and speak, but also let yourself feel, okay? And let that feeling guide the translation, because when you feel and you articulate, there's a synthesis, they smooch, it comes together, and then your emotions make sense. If your moon is in the fourth house, aye, Captain, we are going into the emotional deep end, baby. So I hope you have your life vest, because here is where the moon is at home. Literally, okay? The fourth house, the bottom of your chart, is about family, roots, ancestry, childhood. It's about your emotional foundation. It's about what I lovingly refer to as your villain origin story. This placement says your inner world matters profoundly, and it was developed in your childhood. Home, whatever that means to you, is your emotional status quo. Family dynamics rise and fall. Living situations evolve. Your relationship to belonging is going to change shape over time. And all of that is happening whilst you are processing the emotional imprints from your childhood, because the moon remembers everything that ever happened to you. You remember the vibes in your childhood home. You remember the turbulence. You remember the tension. You also remember the tenderness, okay? You remember the emotional climate of where you came from and how that shaped you in enormous ways because it is still shaping you today. In fact, you can't escape it. Your relationship to your mother is often hugely defining here. Whether she was deeply present, emotionally all-consuming, or inconsistent, or nurturing, or absent, or somehow all of the above at the same damn time, it's big mommy energy to have the moon in the fourth. And perhaps even more fascinatingly, you inherit the emotional patterns generationally with the moon in the fourth house, which means a big part of your soul work is understanding what belongs to you and what simply does not. And because the tides here are so emotional, there are going to be moments where you retreat. And sometimes that's cozy nesting, and that's very beautiful and frankly aspirational. But sometimes it's also isolating in this painful sort of defeatist way. But emotional regression is going to happen from time to time because this is so linked to your childhood feelings that every so often you do need to become a 3-year-old again. And that also is safety for you. So your moon maxing is ultimately about creating a peaceful, safe home within yourself. You are meant to be connected to your memory, to your ancestry, to your truth, but your fulfillment is going to come when you stop searching for that externally or trying to recreate what you had or didn't have and start finding that magic within. Because low key, the moon in the fourth is actually very witchy and very intuitive and very magical. There's so much depth and psychic ability to the moon in this place in your chart. So when you don't feel like you are trapped in the environment that you came from, that you were born into, but you actually start to create the world that you want to live in, you can build an entirely new existence for yourself. And that is going to allow you to heal every version of yourself across every dimension. And that's tea. If your moon is in the fifth house, your heart wants to play. This is the area of the chart linked to creativity and pleasure and joy and romance and performance and self-expression. And from an emotional perspective, honey, you need to be delighted. You want to find inspiration. You want to find art. You want to find creative pursuits. And you need to know that you are gifted and talented and that you deserve to be praised for your abilities. Wait, that sounds unsustainable, doesn't it? Because, that's not how life works. Yes, exactly. That's the problem. That is not how life works. And that is why even the moon in the fifth house being like such a lovely and joyful and playful place, is not always going to feel easy, breezy, beautiful cover girl, okay? Growing up, there may have been some strong emotional connections around your achievement, your talents, your visibility. Maybe you had a mommy who was really encouraging you to cultivate your gifts, which is great, but then you learned that you needed to be entertaining or funny or successful or impressive to get the type of attention that was going to emotionally sustain you. And then you started to believe that in order to find and be stabilized, emotionally regulated, that you had to have that kind of recognition and validation. And you needed to be fully flooded with praise in order for you to have all of your serotonin and dopamine and all that good stuff like right where it needed to be. But then what happens when you don't get that, right? What happens when that type of acknowledgement isn't there? What happens when you are not the most gifted and talented one in the room? Where does the confidence go? Where does the safety go? Where does the nurturing go? How are you able to keep going without that type of praise? Honey, rejection is very hard for you. And whether it's that you are feeling rejected by others or you are rejecting yourself, let's say you are in a dry spell creatively, or you are being stifled by your obligations and your responsibilities, or you don't know when you're ever going to be able to shine again because of XYZ in your life, or because you came in last place or you failed at that. Fifth house lunar people are going to experience this like true emotional devastation when they are unable to receive the type of comfort that they crave. And the tricky thing is the type of comfort that they crave has to do with the way that the world is receiving them. But your moon maxing is understanding that this type of joy, this type of desire that you have at your core is not frivolous. It's actually incredibly beautiful, incredibly profound. It's driven by your soul, right? I always say that the soul is inherently creative. So the fact that you want to create, that you want to flirt, that you want to laugh, that you want to make art, that you want to take risks, that you want to compete for the things that you care about, that you want to express your passions, like that's beautiful. You are so connected to your true essence and spirit. What you need to learn is that creating because it fulfills you is really the value here, not creating because it earns you applause. Your tides are a reminder that your spark never disappears. Even when people aren't warming themselves by your fire, you always got that flame, honey. You are an eternal flame, and it is going to show up when it needs to show up. And sometimes it's raining and it's like, I'm little. And sometimes the weather is perfect and it's roaring, right? You just need to trust the process and remember that that little bit of drama, it's absolutely okay, and we love you for it. Go off. If your moon is in the 6th house, your emotions live within your routines. They live within your health, your responsibilities, your relationship to time itself. This is the house of daily life, of work, of energetic expression, of what you do all day long. So for you, your emotional well-being and your practical well-being are one and of the same. You're going to feel best when you have a structure, right? A little rhythm, a little system. And yes, I know you may be like, systems? What? That's not sexy. But wait. Pray tell, could there be anything sexier than a color-coded closet? Could there be anything sexier than a nice workout, breaking a little sweat followed by a spa? A little massage, a little facial, a little plush robe? Could there be anything sexier than you being in the driver's seat of your own life? No, honey. And for you, it's not just about sex appeal. It's literally about emotional regulation, which is tea. Growing up, there may have been an early awareness of the responsibilities that you had and how much was on your plate, okay? Maybe your mother was a very hands-on person. Maybe she was always caring or helping or managing or cooking or fixing. Or maybe, antithesis, because opposites are the same, there was a lot of anxiety and illness and unpredictability, chaos, and that made you hyper aware of how important it is to keep everything together. Either way, you learn that being useful was often tied to your safety, and your safety was tied to your usefulness, so you always needed to have a plan. Now, your tides are going to show up physically, okay? Stress lives in your body, period. So when you are triggered, it is going to manifest through exhaustion, anxiety, nervous system activation, even health issues. 6th house moons tend to have lots of gastro stuff going on when they are not doing well emotionally. Even some autoimmune issues, right? Especially if that early childhood stress didn't have an outlet to be processed through. And then sometimes when things get stressful in your life today, as a grown adult person, you might find yourself trying to control things, right? Maybe it's the schedule, maybe it's the food, maybe it's the routine, the productivity, and all of that becomes its own spiral too. But honey, your moon maxing is understanding that these rituals of all kinds, are sacred, and that you deserve to have rituals in your life that support you. I'm talking movement, I'm talking sleep, therapy, nourishment, calendars, boundaries, baby. These aren't nice to have. These aren't nice to have. I can't do it. These aren't things that are just nice to have. These are necessities for your emotional stability. But remember, you are not meant to optimize yourself into exhaustion. You are meant to care for yourself so deeply, so profoundly, that your daily life becomes in and of itself an act of devotion. How can you treat yourself with the utmost care every single day? How can you treat yourself with the utmost respect, the utmost reverence? And that is sexy. And that's tea. Coming up, we have 6 more houses and 6 more lunar placements to explore. Where's the moon in your chart? Where's the moon in your best friend's chart? Where's the moon in your crush's chart? Well, we're gonna get to it, okay? So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this quick break. Welcome back, community. Today we are going on a lunar adventure as we continue to explore the moon. And today we're talking about the moon through the houses. So let's keep it going, my little moonbeams. We have 6 more houses to get into, and kicking us off, let's tee on that 7th house moon, shall we? If your moon is in the 7th house, relationships are your emotional climate, period. This is the house of partnership, of contracts, of commitment, of collaboration, of the sacred, terrifying, beautiful realization that life is not a solo journey, that your emotional world is deeply shaped by connections, your connections. You regulate through closeness, through togetherness, through being understood by another person. Growing up, your emotional baseline may have been established through relational dynamics. Maybe you realized early on that your emotional safety had to come through this closeness, through this attunement, through paying very, very close attention to other people's feelings. You were reading between the lines, and you became so relationally intelligent because you had to. And then as you got older, you felt that your emotions were best reflected through the people in your life. Now, because the moon is tidal, relationships are going to be naturally tidal too. Your friendships are going to evolve. Your partnerships are going to deepen. They're going to shift. They're going to dissolve. They're going to reconnect, right? There are many seasons where love is going to feel abundant for you. And there are going to be many seasons where love feels like you have lost it entirely. And that is just part of your structure. And the thing is that because your emotions are so tied to other people, even during these ups and downs, like you're always going to be looking to the external to figure out how you feel about everything. It's hard to regulate when your relationships are changing because you're not going to know how you should feel about it, right? The shadow of having the moon in the 7th house is outsourcing your emotional truth to other people. Feeling okay when someone else feels okay, feeling not okay when they don't feel okay, feeling unequipped to express how you actually feel because you don't want to rock the boat, and then you deny your truth, and then you resent the other person, and then the relationship is damaged, and then it becomes a vicious cycle because measuring your worth through partnership is not a reliable or a safe thing to do. So your moon maxing with your 7th house moon is both understanding that your relational needs are important and beautiful. People need people, period. And that you need to focus on how you can become aware of someone else's emotions without being enmeshed in the emotions. You are not one of the same. You are 2 different people with 2 different lives. You are allowed to have your own feelings. They are allowed to have their own feelings. Those feelings can sometimes mean that you're both on the same page. Other times you're not. Sometimes you're not even reading the same damn book, okay? You are you. They are them. But tending to yourself, understanding what your needs are, what you want, what makes you feel safe and secure, means that you are going to be focusing on the most important relationship of all. You know what it is? It's the relationship you have with yourself. That's tea. If you have your moon in the 8th house, okay, step into the haunted mansion. Welcome to the spooky attic. Welcome to the ghost tour, baby. We are now in the house of alchemy, the house of intimacy, the house of power and sex and metamorphosis and grief and transformation and shadow work and all the spooky little corners of life that force you to evolve. And whoo, that's a lot. So naturally, your emotional world runs deep, okay? Like Mariana Trench Deep, like Morticia Adams in the Mariana Trench Deep. Growing up, you may have felt an incredible amount of emotional intensity around your mother, your family systems, dynamics that felt psychologically complicated, emotionally consuming. Maybe they were secretive, they were transformative, they were difficult to understand. Sometimes this placement can point to loss or instability or power struggles or simply an awareness from a very young age that life is hard and complicated and weird. And you learned early that emotions carry weight and that all actions have consequences, which is T. And because the moon is tidal, honey, these waves are rough, right? These are rough waves, but they're also seductive waves, and they're also elusive waves, and they're also powerful waves. It's giving kinky. Intimacy is about power dynamics. Trust is about power dynamics. Vulnerability is about power dynamics. You guessed it. Sometimes you feel profoundly connected to your magic, deeply intuitive, really psychically tapped in. And other times those feelings go a little cuckoo bananas and you're like betrayal, abandonment, paranoia, and that can make you feel absolutely waterboarded. There's often a tendency towards extremes because you live in the extreme. You do not just float on the surface. You are either being dragged under or you are treading water like your life depends on it, because it does. There's no lazy river here, diva, okay? So let me tell you this, my friend. You are not too intense. You do not need a lazy river snooze fest. You came here to experience the full spectrum of emotions, and that is exactly what you are going to do. So your moon maxing is about understanding that the moon in the 8th house is powerful. You are meant to transform again and again and again throughout your life. Therapy, incredible. Shadow work, obsessed. Spiritual practices, it's a yes. Making magic under the full moon, obviously. Becoming a werewolf from time to time, why wouldn't you? Your joy and fulfillment come when you stop being afraid of yourself. Embrace yourself. You're a witch. You're a little scary. So what? Live, laugh, love all the way to the graveyard, you enchanted being. You are literally here to make magic. So bippity boppity boo, that's tea. If your moon is in the 9th house, your feelings need room to breathe. This is the house of exploration, of travel, of higher learning, of spirituality, of meaning making. And from an emotional perspective, you need perspective. You need expansion. You need to understand the why behind what is happening. Externally, yes, but internally too. You are always wondering why you are the way you are, why you feel the way you feel, and how those feelings are actually microcosms of the greater world. And honey, it's giving philosopher, okay? It's so tea. Growing up, your emotional reality was shaped by your beliefs, your education, your religion, distance, exploration. Maybe your mother encouraged curiosity and independence, or maybe you had parents, or you came from a family that was from a different country or spoke a different language and introduced you to a world beyond your immediate reality, but also not one that you were able to easily connect with. So it became this sort of emotional curiosity for you. Or maybe it was the opposite. Maybe your family lived what you perceived to be a very small and boring life. And for you, you sought that emotional fulfillment from beyond, right? And that became your lunar food. Because the moon is so tidal here, your emotional fulfillment tends to expand and contract through your worldview. Some seasons of life are going to feel really inspiring for you, hopeful and expansive and connected to purpose. And then other seasons feel existential, like existential lost, existential bad, existential searching for meaning that you just can't find. Yoo-hoo! Meaning, where are you? And then when you connect to something, be it a new idea or a new concept or a new feeling or a new connection, you're like, oh yeah, I feel satiated again. But then if something makes you doubt that for whatever reason, or if someone questions your judgment, questions your thinking, big emotional collapse. And it's about your sensitivities, but it's also about how you make sense of the world, right? You go from feeling sad, like sad, normal sad, to what's the point of anything, like really fucking fast. But your moon maxing, my darling, is understanding that your emotional world grows through your exploration unapologetically. You are meant to ask questions. You are meant to evolve your philosophy. You are meant to read books. You are meant to explore new horizons, new possibilities. It's giving archaeologist, it's giving Matilda, definitely giving Matilda. Your fulfillment comes from remembering that life is bigger than any given moment of reality, and that every emotional experience that you have is helping you build this beautiful library of wisdom. But that wisdom is only built through trial and error and challenging yourself and building up your courage and doing hard things. So don't be afraid to push yourself, okay? And don't be afraid to be pushed from time to time either. That's how you're ultimately gonna get where you wanna go. If your moon is in the 10th house, emotions and ambitions are deeply intertwined. This is the house of legacy and career and visibility and public image and recognition and purpose. So yes, honey, this placement cares a lot about success. But beneath that, what you actually want is emotional validation. You want to know that your life means something that matters, something important, something that's going to be remembered. Growing up, there may have been strong emotional themes around achievement and expectations and reputation or responsibility. Maybe your mother modeled ambition, or maybe she sacrificed deeply for your family, or maybe you felt like in order for you to be able to get any acknowledgement or recognition at all, that you needed to do something amazing. Or maybe you felt like you needed to compete with someone who was already very ambitious. Or maybe your ambition was denied for whatever reason, and it becomes something that you have to chase chronically. No matter how this lunar placement came to be, your tides appear in the form of visibility and recognition and the way that you are perceived externally. Some seasons, you're going to be really aligned with your purpose. You're going to be motivated. You're going to feel seen. You're going to feel that success. And then other periods of life are going to feel challenging. Setbacks feel catastrophic for you. External validation is so intoxicating that when you lose it, it can become destabilizing. It can become something that's really hard to come back from. It's an impossible expectation because life can't always be giving you more, right? Life moves in cycles, and sometimes it's your turn and sometimes it's their turn. And especially with the moon there, this ebb and flow around your success and recognition is going to be inevitable. It's part of life. It's part of your life, and it's a part of life that you need to integrate. This placement often struggles with emotional vulnerability because achievement is what you are seeking, right? And you may think, if I can be successful enough, then I'll feel secure and I won't have to deal with all of this other stuff. But honey, your moon maxing is understanding that work is not your worth, and your emotions are surely not meant to limit your success. In fact, hey, with the moon in this very visible position, you are meant to bring your emotions and that ebb and flow and that wax and wane into your public image. You are meant to lead because you are sensitive. You are meant to create something meaningful because you are vulnerable. You are meant to be seen because you are human. And fulfillment is ultimately going to happen when success becomes an expression of your emotional truth and the emotional layers of your beautiful little onion self. And then ultimately, you realize that no accomplishment is ever going to replace the love that you can provide yourself with. Yes, build the legacy, obviously, but make sure you are nurturing the person that needs it. And that, honey, is the little you. And then this becomes inner child work. If your moon is in the 11th house, community matters. Belonging matters. Your dreams, the collective dreams, they all matter. The future matters. The future matters. There is something so beautiful and so intrinsically optimistic about this placement because the 11th house is the area of the chart that's connected to groups and networks and collective movements and the impact that we have on people beyond ourselves. It's modernity, it's technology, it's the way that we move forward. So this reveals that your emotions aren't just about you processing your feelings. It's about you processing the world through your feelings. And because this is so big and dense and magical, obviously, honey, you do need people to help you actually metabolize this energy. Not necessarily in a romantic way, though obviously we'll take it, right? We love it. But really, an 11th house moon needs people in community. Growing up, you may have felt that there were strong recurring themes in your life around fitting in or feeling different or finding your people, understanding where you belong socially. Maybe you were encouraged to find friendship and independence, or maybe that sense of belonging felt really inconsistent in your life. And that's why it became your life mission to find your chosen family, because you didn't actually feel like you belonged in the family you were born into. Now, we always know that when there's the moon, there's tides, right? And the tides here show up in your friendships, in your community, and in the interests that you care about, because they all evolve. They all change. What you care about is going to change. It's allowed to change. You're going to feel sometimes like you are totally locked in. You're so collaborative, you're inspired, you know that you are moving towards the mission. And then other times you're going to feel lonely. You're going to feel like you're the weird one, and in not a good way. You're going to feel left out, and you're also going to feel like you see a future and a world that other people just can't understand. But here's the tea. These tides are supposed to be in motion. These tides, this understanding of where you want to be and with whom you want to be with, is actually incredibly powerful and very spiritually significant. Honey, your moon maxing is understanding that belonging is meant to change shape over time. You are meant to connect with people. You are meant to feel emotionally fulfilled when your gifts impact others and when you're surrounded by people who actually get you. That's a good thing. So keep finding your people. Keep fighting for what you believe in. Keep changing the world. And all the while, make sure that you are staying true to yourself, staying true to your heart, staying true to your mission, staying true to your needs, and giving them all permission to change. You can be of yourself and be of the world, even as the world changes around you. And perhaps that is the most moon max story of them all. That's tea, honey. If your moon is in the 12th house, baby, we are on the astral plane now. We have transcended. Now, this final house is the area of the chart linked to intuition and endings and healing and spirituality and the unconscious and the unseen and your mental health. And emotionally, honey, it's giving everything. It's literally giving everything. Now, growing up, there may have been some emotional ambiguity around your mother or who was taking care of you. Maybe you felt like your parents, your mother was unavailable, maybe hard to understand or overwhelmed or emotionally distant, or maybe she was deeply spiritual or very in tune with your own psychic needs, or maybe she had mental health issues. Whatever it is, you became very aware of this unspoken intuitive bond that you had with the people who were in caretaking roles in your life. There was a very deep survival need to understand the emotional atmosphere of your reality, even before you were able to really comprehend what it was about, what was actually going on. And that became your lunar food. That became your sustenance. You feel everything because you had to feel everything, honey. It was part of what sustained you, and it kept you alive. And because the moon is tidal, and the 12th house is literally the deepest, darkest bottom of the ocean, these tides are actually an underwater storm, okay? It's giving hurricane. Emotional waves can arrive out of nowhere for you. And then suddenly, you're living, laughing, loving, having a scuba diving lesson, and then it's like terrifying. Is it intuition or is it anxiety? Is it a stress dream or is it a prophetic nightmare? There's a lot to process, especially because the moon in the 12th is also ancestral, honey. You are both in this realm and then in all of the other realms that existed before you. You might withdraw when things get too intense or disappear into fantasy or struggle to know where your feelings end and another feeling set begins. And is that feeling set even somebody who is a physically embodied person, or is it a ghost? But let me tell you something. You are magic. Period. You are psychic. So your moon maxing is all about recognizing, one, that you're psychic, and two, protecting your sensitivities without shutting down, without going so far inward that nobody on this plane, this earthly plane, can reach you. Yes, you are meant to rest. You are meant to sleep, but you are also meant to create. You are also meant to make art about the complex experience of being a human being. You are meant to connect with spirituality and intuition through therapy and ritual and meditation and creativity, whatever helps you make sense of this vast universe that we call your emotions. Boundaries are also everything here, and so is compassion for yourself. You are deeply attuned, and your emotional fulfillment is going to come really fully and completely to you when you stop fearing your sensitivities and start trusting it as a form of your intelligence. Because honey, your moon in the 12th, it is divinely guided, no doubt about it. Okay, what do you think about today's episode, part 2 of the moon? What resonated? What did you learn? Where's the moon in your chart? What breakthroughs did you have? Let me know in those 5-star reviews, please. Please, please, please. Let me know in your comments. And of course, tell your friends, tell your family, let them all know about AstroloTea. It makes such a difference, and it really helps us build a beautiful community here. I'll be back on Monday with your weekly brew, which obviously includes your horoscope. So join me then, and then Wednesday, and then Mondays, and then Wednesdays, and then Mondays, and then Wednesdays, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. You know the drill. Mwah. I'll see you there.